All right. Well, good afternoon. Good morning to some, but good afternoon to myself and most others here. I want to welcome you to the Objection Mastery course here, and sponsored by the Leapfrog Income Accelerator program. And I want to talk about first the agenda that we're going to cover here today, because we're going to try to cover a lot in just a little bit of time, but it's going to be very content rich, very informational rich. We'll have time for questions and answers, so you definitely want to take some really good notes. And we're going to do some role playing at the end, but let me go through the agenda here. Introduction, of course, we're doing right now. Some of the topics we're going to cover here today, not only how to handle objections, but the psychology of why people ask them, what they actually mean, because most objections don't mean what the salesperson thinks they mean. So we're going to talk about the psychology, the mindset, your mindset and your prospect's mindset, words that you're using, the word tracks that you're using, and word patterns that you can string together to not only prevent, but overcome and handle any objection you could possibly think of. And I learned a lot of this. You'll hear my story in just a little bit. So I'm going to share it with you. Then we're going to talk about who I am and why you should be listening to me. Strategy number one. This is one of the biggest pieces, I believe, and it's preventing objections from coming up in the first place. If you can understand the mindset and the concept of preventing objections, this will save you so much time, increase your sales dramatically. And I really want you to really take really good attention, obviously, to the whole thing, but that in particular. Then I've got a guest speaker coming on, Sam Wakefield, friend of mine that I met through the internet here. And Sam has been, he's in the same industry that I am. He trains people, but he specializes in HVAC, and he's got a short training that I listened to, and it was so powerful. I asked him to come on and share it with you guys, and it's going to be really good. So you want to obviously appreciate Sam for coming on. He'll be in a little bit later. And then strategy number two is handling the objection. So the first one is preventing. Second one is going to be handling. Then I'm going to share with you how to connect with me so that we can get to know each other a little bit better. And then the third key thing I'm going to talk about is overcoming objections. And so we'll do preventing, handling, overcoming, if they do come up, and then live role playing to answer any and all of your biggest objections that could be holding you back and give you a major breakthrough today. So you guys ready to get started? Let's go ahead and get started here. Who else joined us here? Nigel, thanks for coming on, Nigel. Good to have you. All righty. So objections are often mistaken for rejection. It's probably the main reason many people do not like sales or think they wouldn't be good as a sales professional. The fear of rejection, it's a powerful reality that we all deal with our whole life. It's something we all deal with as because we want to belong. We don't like rejection. No one likes rejection. We all want to belong. And sometimes when somebody comes up with an objection or excuse or a question, we take it as reject. A professional that understands this won't, but new people and people that are stuck think that it's a rejection, and it's really not. In sales, you want to understand that rejection is part of the sales process. Objections are part of the sales process. In fact, you may have heard this before. I was just watching a little clip from a movie done 50 years ago, and it was what was it? Murder, She Wrote. And they said it there, and I'll say it here. The sales process starts early, but the selling doesn't start until the customer says no, or until they come up with a question, or they come up with a rejection or an objection. So you want those to happen because that's part of the sales process. And as salespeople, if that's when the sales starts, sales is plural. It's not just a one chance thing. It's multiple cells that get you to the sale. Okay. So what I found is that prospects rarely say no. It's usually a reason, a question, an excuse not to move forward. And they come in all different flavors and sizes, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. But part of today, I'm going to go over the psychology of how to prevent many of these from coming up in the first place, and then overcoming the objections that you get every single day. If you learn how to prevent or overcome just one objection that you get over and over in your business that you stumble with, your sales would increase dramatically, as well as your income, and you'd be able to help more people. So what I'm going to share with you today is how to learn how to handle all of them, not just one or two. truly a life-changing skill as well as an income-changing one. So here's an example. You're not going to get everyone. So understand that right away. I'm going to teach you how to overcome any objection, but you're not going to get everyone. There are people are going to, no matter what you do, you could be giving it away and they're still not going to believe you that it's free and they're going to say no. So what I want you to go for is shoot for 3 out of 10. So if you get the same objection over and over and over again in your business, and I'll share with you a little bit about my experience, but if you learn how to overcome the objection, you're going to get 3 of those 10 every single time. So you'll go from 0, from walking away, from feeling rejected, from feeling despondent, you'll get 3 out of 10. And then as you get better and better through repetition and hard work, continually fixing and refining, it's going to go up to 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10. And if you're really good, you'll get up even higher than 50%. But 30% is dramatically increases your business and your income, especially if you have the answer to that rejection or objection. Okay, so first, let's talk about who I am, why you'd want to listen to me, closely take notes throughout the entire class, write down the questions that you want to ask later, and you don't want to leave your fortune in your memory. I learned that from Jim Rohn. He was one of my early mentors, and Jim Rohn said, don't leave your fortune in your memory. If it's worth remembering, it's worth writing down. That's why most people at 60 years old, they're broke because they didn't write down what they needed to write down. So let me go ahead and share my screen here, and we'll get into share with you who I am and why you should listen. So let's go here. But let me share my screen first, then I can go there. Let's see, where is it? Hold on, bear with me. Here we go. Okay, some of you know who I am, but for those of you that don't, my name's Harry Newhan. In the 80s and 90s, I was blessed and fortunate enough to be in the right place at the right time. I built a 6-figure monthly international network marketing distributorship, produced over 10 millionaires, and that was my career when it got my sales career when it started. Built the #1 top producing door-to-door sales team in the country in the 2000s, 2010s, knocking on over 10,000 doors myself to learn how to do it. And I was able to build a massive team, numerous top performance awards, sales trainer, consultant, mentor, and coach. Here's one published in an article, best sales performance. This one here, let me just move this here. I was able to earn my wife at that time $120,000 in 8 months. Here's another award we got. This one was $17,000 for a bonus we earned. And here's another one, over almost $8,000 for a bonus. Now, it wasn't always that way. I grew up in the restaurant business, and I was flipping hamburgers at Big Boy until I was 26 years old. It's a family business. And at 26, I found myself living paycheck to paycheck like so many people do. And I just had too much month left at the end of the money. And I was looking for an answer. And sales was the answer for me. Now, here's what's happened. What I'm going to teach you today has helped me have freedom, flexibility. I work with who I want, when I want. I have a sports car, motorcycle, money in the bank. I own my home free and clear. I'm able to spend time with my family doing what I want and so forth. So, you've heard all the stories, but I'm one of those guys that it actually was blessed and fortunate enough to happen to. But more importantly than what it's done for me, it's what it's done for the people that I work with. Consistent, repeatable process of skill building. And that's what we're going to really dive into today. Here's one from Latara. 2 weeks after coaching session with me, she got 5 new clients. Broke a rut she was in. She was in a rut. Here's Stephen Piskorowski. Harry's knowledge has helped me transform the way I approach my real estate business. So he's doing very, very well in real estate. Now he's building a super team. Hugh Alley, he's another Canadian. We got some Canadians on the line here. He's the author of the Becoming a Supervisor, Principal Operations Excellence. Harry helped me increase my sales 200% the first year. That said, you guys ready to go? Let's go ahead and get into some really good stuff here. Let me do this. Focus here. Who else joined us? Denise, thanks for joining us, Denise. Glad to have you. Okay, so let me get down to business. Okay, so let's talk about preventing. This is the one that you guys will really, it changed my life. When I figured this out, when I was able to figure this out, all the pieces of the puzzle came together. And we'll talk a little bit. I had a coaching session with Dallas yesterday, and it was like a little revelation for him, the way that you can prevent most objections from coming up in the first place. So let's start off with the first thing, and that's the inner game. That's your mindset. We'll start with you first, the mindset. And these two topics I'm going to cover, it's going to help prevent a doubt and help build trust from your prospects. If not done, these things will lead to objections. They'll lead to questions. They'll lead to rejections. So how and where do you start in this step, in the process? It's really simple and it's crazy. And you may not even believe it, but the first step in building that trust and starting the process is smiling. In every form of communication that you work in, if you're prospecting with direct messaging, if you're texting, if you're emailing, if you're doing posts on social media, if you're responding to posts on social media, your presentations that you do, especially when it comes to handling objections and questions, smiling, it's the only universal expression that I know of that expresses approachability and safety. It gives you the benefit of the doubt right off the bat before you say a word. And if you're face to face in front of your prospect, it gives you the edge right off the bat. And when your prospects feel comfortable, you'll get less resistance from them to move forward with you. Wouldn't you guys agree? Yeah. So they want to feel comfortable. They want to feel they want to feel like they're a part of your family, and that's what a smile will do. So when you smile, you want to show teeth. Don't just grin. You want to smile. Grinning, yeah, that could be anything. But when you smile, it really sets the tone for the relationship building that you're going to be doing. Now, here's an important key. This starts off being difficult, but it's vital. Don't take rejection with you. And here's the phrase. You cannot be emotionally tied to the outcome of your presentation. Now there's a story in the Bible. I'm not an expert on the Bible, but there's a story. Whether you believe or not, that's up to you. But there's a story there that's pretty powerful. It's when Jesus sent his 12 disciples out to go and minister without him. He said, "Go to every town, knock on the door, and whatever city is not of your accord, shake the dust off your feet before you go to the next town." Now, what could that mean? Well, some people are going to accept it. Some people are going to reject it. The people that reject, if you don't get that dust off your feet, it starts to build up into a pebble. If you go to another house and the rejection, you don't shake it off your feet, it could create an irritation, and then it could create a blister. And then if you keep that in there, you don't brush it off your feet, it could get infected. It could get to the point where you get poisonous gangrene, and they could have to amputate your foot, and it could kill you. It's the same thing with rejection. If you take rejection from one of your sales presentations, if you take rejection from one of your webinars, if you take rejection from somebody that you're working with and you lost a customer, if you take that to the next customer, the next prospect, it's a domino effect, because that emotion, it's too much pressure. And you end up losing the next prospect and the next prospect. And that's one of the death of a salesman, taking the rejection with you. So take your emotion out of the outcome. Do not tie your emotion to the outcome of your presentation. Once it's done, shake the dust off your foot and move forward. Now, if you're under pressure, nervous, or scared, your prospect can feel it. They know it. They can sense it. They can hear it in your voice. They can hear it in your inflections. They can see it in the way you're delivering your presentation. And many times it translates into your pressuring the presentation, or you're pressuring them, and then the whole thing goes sideways and south. So when you are doing, and by the way, when you're doing your posts and your emails, you say, "Well, Harry, how do I smile on an email?" Believe this. People know if you're smiling when you write an email. They know if you're smiling when you write a post. They know if you're smiling. They know if you're relaxed, if you're having fun. They can read it in the words that you use if you are uncomfortable. So I encourage you to put a sign on some places before you start posting, before you start prospecting, before you start looking for people, smile. Just put big words smile before you start doing it. Because if you're not in the right frame of mind, it's better to not start. Now, door to door. I mentioned earlier that I was going to talk a little bit about that. And it's not just magical about door to door. It's any sales presentations, whatever you guys do for sales. For me, it was door to door. I made a fortune in the network marketing industry, and that was a different industry. Door to door, was able to make a fortune in door to door, but door to door is really where I solidified and mastered the art of ethical persuasion, the art of sales. Because when you knock on 10,000 doors, 30, 40, 50 a day for 10, 12 years, you compress time. You learn so quick. Otherwise, you get out of the business because you can't handle it. But you learn really quick. And what happens is you want to create a conversational conversation versus a confrontational conversation. So just like when you're doing a presentation, if you're not smiling, they're already uncomfortable, because what I didn't want to be stereotyped as is a fast talking door to door salesperson that your mother, when you were growing up, said, don't answer the front door, only answer the side door. Side door family comes through, the front door the salespeople come to. You don't want that stereotype, because it is a stereotype. Ethical persuasion, unfortunately, can be used for unethical things, because the talent and the technique and the skill applies to the process, not to the person. So I'm entrusting you guys with these things I'm going to share with you today for ethical persuasion and doing the right things. So when I was training my new salespeople, some of the objections we were getting would throw them off, and they took it personal. They had their emotion tied to the objection. And we would be saving somebody 40, 50, $60 a month, which is several $100s a year in the packages that we were offering. And some of my new sales reps would say, I don't understand. Don't you want to save money? And the door slammed in their face. And I had to train them. And it's not just that phrase, it's other phrases too, but I'm using this one as an example. Everybody wants to save money. What happened was we didn't develop enough trust and rapport on the front end. We missed the space in between, and we didn't answer the question the way they needed it answered. They had a legitimate concern, a legitimate question, and the salesperson, the trainee, blew it. So actually I had to knock back on the door and recover the situation for them as I was training them, so they can see how the process worked. It's the same thing when you guys are selling, excuse me, cars, real estate, insurance, whatever it is that you sell. It's the same process. Create a conversational environment, relationship building environment, as opposed to a confrontational one. Objections are part of the process. Know that going in. Okay. So here's the next step in this. How do you really feel about what you're selling? You see, if you truly believe that your product or service can and will help someone, you owe it to them, not just to sell it to them, but to do a presentation that gets them to see the end result for them, gets them to see them using your product, gets them to see them benefiting and making their life better with enthusiasm, excitement, animation. I mean, if you're, especially the Middle Eastern people, I mean, use your hands. If you get into using your hands in your explanation, use your animation if needed, and the belief that you have will come out in your presentation. And you can be assumptive that they will be saying yes and buying from you. The words that you use set the tone, and they matter. And so you want to choose your words wisely. And one of the things that we teach is we teach scripting. Scripting is a whole nother class. Today we're going to go over objections, obviously, but having a great script, a great presentation, will help you prevent many objections from coming up in the first place. So you're smiling, you're talking with enthusiasm, you're talking with excitement, you have absolute belief that what you're going to do is going to change this person's life for the better. That comes across in the presentation, and they will buy you first. You're selling yourself first, and that's what they're going to buy. That's what they're going to believe in, before it comes to the product. So it's important that you understand that your clients cannot benefit from what you sell unless you sell it to them. And they're not going to buy it from you unless you deliver it in a way that they get it, they see it, they trust you. So here's another phrase for you that really helped me a long way. It's not just how you feel about what you say that makes a difference. The difference between average and fortune is, yeah, let's change that. See, we're doing this live, so I can make mistakes and I can edit it out, right? Okay. So often we hear our parents say, it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. How many of you have heard that? It's not just what you say, it's how you say it, right? Okay. I'm going to add another dimension to that. It's not just what you say, it's how you feel about what you say. Remember, your prospects are feeding off your energy. How you feel about what you say. So if you say it with integrity, if you say it with enthusiasm, you say it with excitement and belief and integrity, that's what they're going to feel. Having the attitude of being all in on your product or service is a key. I saw this in action. I have a friend of mine lives in Houston, Texas. He owns a real estate brokerage company inside the loop, and actually went to consult with him about five years ago. I spent 4 months down in Houston and did some consulting with him as he was expanding his business. And I watched him in action. He's a pro. His company does a couple $100 million a year in total real estate sales, and it's a boutique realtor company. And I watched this in happening, and I do it and I teach it, but I never saw anybody else do it until I watched him. And I said, you know what? That just confirmed everything I was doing, not just my success, but watching another pro do the same thing. And what I saw is he had somebody come in to look at a condo, and it was a young couple, and the condo was priced in the $500,000-$600,000 range, and it was a young couple, and he took them, and he had a salesperson with him, a trainee with him. He took that client and he treated them like they already owned it. He walked through that place and showed them everything, showed them every benefit. He asked the right questions. He asked what they were looking for. The relationship building was 5-star. It was just amazing. And they had a question, and he said, "Yeah, can we put a deck up here?" And he says, "Oh my God, that's a great idea, and this is what you could do." And he was using his hands. Of course, he's half Italian. He was into it. He was so into it that they bought him because of his enthusiasm, his excitement, his integrity, and he answered all their questions, and he went through everything. So that's what I mean by going all in. Treat your clients, when they have a question, they just want more information. When they have an objection, they just want more information. So you're showing them in the way that you act and what you say. You're showing them your belief system. Having the confidence that you have will add to this. So confidence we're going to talk about later, but having confidence is one of the best ways to express your belief. When you act confidently, when you talk confidently, when you post confidently, when you present confidently. Why? Because your clients are looking for confidence in you, that you believe in what you're selling. Are you confidently sure that this is going to benefit me? So here's a key point for you. If you're not ready mentally, you don't have your game face on, if you're unsure, don't start. Wait until you're ready. Wait until you're ready to go. Wait until you got it figured out. So I got a couple side notes here, and then we'll get into some other stuff. Here's a side note. You want to track your presentations. What do I mean by that? Well, when I was going door, I tracked my activity and my results from my activity. And I had an aha moment. When I saw 80% of my sales came after the prospect said no or had objections at least 4 or 5 times. 80%. Can you imagine that? Now think about that for a second. That's the difference between 35,000 a year and 135,000 a year at that time. I came to the conclusions that the more answers I had, the more objections I was able to overcome, the more customers I was going to be able to satisfy, the more sales I was going to make, and of course, the more income. So I had to have enough ammunition in my tool belt or tools in my tool belt, enough ways to overcome different objections to be able to get to that level. So think about if I'm going door to door and 80% of my sales came after they said no 4 or 5 times. And when I say no, I mean objection, question, excuse, concern. What are your numbers? If you are pulling out or walking away or don't have enough ammunition to overcome at least 4 or 5 concerns or questions that your prospect may come up with, you're leaving 80% of your income on the table. So if you're making 50,000 a year now, that's 20% of what you could be making. If you're making 80,000 a year now, that's 20% of what you could be making. If you have enough ways, enough answers to their questions, concerns, and overcome their excuses and reasons and rejections. Okay. So do the math. You should be tracking your business, tracking your clients, tracking your presentations, tracking your results to see where you're at in that equation and how many different objections can you overcome confidently, comfortably, conversationally, and not confrontationally, not frustrated, not angry because they have another question. This is part of the mindset. This is part of the presentation. This is part of the trust building and relationship building. We're going to get into the answer to those in just a little bit, but I want to lay the groundwork before we do get into those, because the groundwork is so critical. If you're not in the right frame of mind, if you don't understand this process, then learning what to say and how to say it, it's not going to be as effective if you're not smiling. It's not going to be effective if you're pressuring the customer or client. It's not going to be effective if you're confrontational in your answers instead of, oh, that's a great question. You know, getting involved with the client and the prospect. Okay, here's side note number 2. Here's the thought for you. There's one main objection in sales, and that's trust or the lack of it. So anytime a potential client gets a sales call, excuse me, the question they're asking themselves is, can I trust you to solve my problem? Now, they won't say this out loud. It'll cause them to say things like, I need time to think about it. I need to discuss this with my team, with my partner, with leadership. Can you guarantee that this will work for me? I don't have the budget for this right now. I need a little more information. And so many other concerns are in objection statements. Each of these statements is a signal that they don't fully trust you yet. So rather than ignoring their feelings, it's very critical and important that you acknowledge their objections and answer the question that they have as transparently and humanly possible as you can. Transparency is one of the fastest ways to build trust with anybody. And when you have the client's trust, then it's simply a matter of time before they pull out their checkbook and write a check. So the words that you use and the words that you choose can make you rich, can increase your sales. Words have power. And learning when and where to use them, it's that scripting that I was talking about earlier. Spend the time to develop a repetitive presentation. They have power in learning when and where to use them and how to use them in the art of ethical persuasion. There's a phrase out there, whoever has the best words usually wins, gets what they want. Tony Robbins has this famous slogan. It says, whoever's most confident in a conversation generally gets the other person or other parties or people that they're talking to go their way. What helps with confidence? Success. What helps with success is a plan of having the right words and the right patterns and the right things to talk about and what to say and how to say it. Having that confidence that you can overcome any objection and doing it with elegance, not with frustration and anger. So preparation for predictable objections will give you the edge. So here's what you should have and do. Get to know and learn as many or all of the possible objections as possible that your prospect could have before you do the presentation, and write them down. You should be prepared for the objections. You should be expecting them. You should be looking forward to them. Where can you find them? You can ask your coworkers. You can ask your customers. What I did going door to door is I asked my clients. I asked the customers when they wouldn't buy from me. I said, just I know you're not going to buy from me, just out of curiosity, just to help me get better. What's the real reason? And what I found is the real reason is usually 3 levels deep. It was never on the surface. It wasn't that they weren't interested, is that they might have had a bad experience. It might have that they owed the company money and they didn't want to pay that money back because they had a bad debt. Even though I'm saving them $50 a month, they owed $500 and they didn't want to pay the 500 so that they could save 50. So whatever the reason was, it was 3 levels deep. It was never on the surface. You can find social media groups. You can ask the questions in there and find out what other people questions they're getting. So I always asked the customer what the real reason was. And what it all came back to was most of the time was trust. So you can continue to step back and build on that using trial closes to see if there's more sticky points with the clients. And you do it again elegantly, not frustrated and angry that they came up with another objection, not angry that they said no, not frustrated that they said no, but accept it. I just didn't give them enough information. They're saying no to what I already gave them, but they didn't know what I haven't given them yet. So once you have the potential reasons written down, here's what I want you to do is write down possible responses to each one. Know what the responses are. Now, this is something that's going to take some work. It's going to take some time. I was able to learn it quickly because and I say quickly, it took me a couple of years, but it was worth it because I ended up making millions. But it took me, and I never went door to door. I mean, it was a new deal for me. I didn't like it. Um, I remembered an old phrase one of my early mentors said. He said, "Learn to love the things you hate to do, and nothing will ever hold you back. The sky's the limit." So I didn't like going door to door. It was uncomfortable for me. Why? Like I mentioned earlier, nobody likes rejection. And where do you get so much rejection is potentially going door to door until you learn the skill of ethical persuasion. So write down the answers to the objections that your client could come up with. If you know what they're going to be before you go into the presentation, and you know what you're going to say when they come up with that objection, it makes the conversation so much more comfortable. So when a customer says whatever their objection is, they say, "This sounds great, but I don't have the money for it." If you take offense by it, or if they see your expression on your face turn differently, they know that there's a problem. If your confidence level's up and you were already ready for that objection, then you can answer it comfortably. Say, "Listen, I understand exactly what you're talking about." That's what your client really wants, is they want you to understand where they're at. They don't want to understand you. They want you to understand them. And if you answer it comfortably and nicely and elegantly, then they're going your way. So once you have this down, then you can start building your script with the most, if not all of the responses right in the script, addressing them before they come up. And when you do this, you take the power of objections away from them. If you address the objection or concern before it comes up, you've taken it away. You're being totally transparent. So I'll give you an example. "Listen, I know you said you weren't interested, but that's okay. Let me share with you this. Let me tell you about him. Let me tell you about her that had the same concern." By doing this, it's a psychological win, and you're showing that you have nothing to hide. Authenticity and transparency builds trust. And when you maintain control of the conversation, you maintain control of the presentation, you got everything going your way. So here's another one. "I know you said you're not interested, but let me at least show you what we can do for you that's different." And if you're still not interested, that's okay. Let me at least show you. Another one. I know you had a bad experience in the past. I get that. This is why it's different. Here's one for you guys. If I can teach you the skills that you'll have for the rest of your career, that's guaranteed it will increase your income at least 30 to 200% forever. Would you want to know more? Would you like to at least get the facts? See, when you present your response to an objection in this way, you get them going your way. You get them relaxed. They're comfortable. You're not put off by the objection. So remember, 3 out of 10 is your goal. Don't fear objections. Expect them. Remember, I talked about rejection. Don't confuse objection with rejection. They're not rejecting you. They're asking you a question. If you look forward to them, this is how you get better. Wow, that's an objection I never heard before. And tell the client that. If they come up with an objection you never heard before, say, that's a good one. I never heard of that one before. What does that actually mean? Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Get them involved. The more you involve them within the conversation, the more they're going to be appreciative that you are really understanding them. You really care about what their needs are. You're not just out for the money. So don't fear objections, expect them and look forward to them. Here's what I taught my guys how to do is gamify it. Leave it to Harry. Gamify getting objections and overcoming them. What do I mean by that? Well, when we got together at the end of every night, we said, what's the most objections you got in any one of your deals? Somebody said 6, somebody said 7. Say the ones that you actually wrote up. They go, yeah, I overcame 7 objections, 7 concerns, 7 questions. Say, okay, great. Another one said, I overcame 2. It said, you overcame 2. What happened to the third one? So they didn't have any. That was all they needed. And then they wrote the order. Okay, so let's talk about the ones you didn't write up. Let's talk about that one. I pointed to the sheet that they were working off of that had the names of the people. I said, how many objections did they have? They said 4. I said, why didn't they write it up? They said, well, they gave me this one. I didn't know how to answer it. I said, okay, great. Let's work on that. So we worked on them on a daily basis on the objections that they got, the questions they got, the concerns that they got, so that I could teach them what they could have said, what they should have said, what they might have gotten farther along with in the conversation. Each time you answer an objection or a question, you get farther along in the conversation. And many times it was how they answered it. So we taught them how to answer it expectantly. Say, Harry, what does that mean? They would say, well, I want to wait till my I don't make any decisions by myself. I have to wait till my spouse comes home. We say, oh, great. That's perfect. We want to make sure that it's comfortable for both of you. The customers weren't expecting that. They were saying, well, where is your husband? Now you're interrogating the prospect. Well, where's your husband? He's at work. Well, can you get him on the phone? No, I'm not going to get him on the phone. He's at work. So instead of creating a confrontation, we turned it into a conversation. Is this making sense to you guys? Okay, good. So I'm gonna have Dallas. Hopefully you don't mind. I'm putting you on the spot. We had a conversation yesterday about that relationship building. If you don't mind, if you want to come on and share what you got out of that conversation and what, if anything, it helped you with as far as that relationship building.
Yeah, I think what I struggle with right now is probably, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks for doing this. It's really great. I filled up a page of notes already, and it's good to be here on a Saturday morning. But so what I'm struggling with right now really isn't necessarily an objection. It's slowing down and asking the right questions to build trust between the prospect and I. So things like just asking them about their family or what they do for work or what they did for work, and getting them to believe that I honestly care about them and their situation instead of just grouping them together with the other people in their age group. and things like that.
So you said something really, really key here. I want everybody to get. He said it's not necessarily objections. And you may be right, but what I challenge you with is that if you did all this stuff on the front end, do you think you'd be writing more orders?
Definitely.
Okay.
If I take care of
Primarily
all of
because
the questions in the front end and help take care of that trust thing up front, then I would probably go through twice as I would probably double my sales again.
yeah. So again, it's not just objections, it's questions, concerns. It's why didn't they write the order? Because they didn't feel comfortable enough that you cared about them. So that's an objection.
Right.
They may not be giving it to you, but it is an objection. Why didn't they write the order? So if it's not necessarily the objections, reasons, excuses, or rejections, why aren't you writing more orders? So it really is, but it's because of the front end relationship building, you're not getting the reason on the back end. So I want you guys to understand that it is rejections, reasons, or objections. It is concerns. It
It
is
is.
trust.
It's not normally they don't come out and say, "Hey, Dallas, we just don't trust you." They're like, "Well, yeah, we'll think about that." So
Yeah. They're not going to say we don't trust you.
yeah, I don't like your
And
haircut. I mean, they don't say anything like that. You didn't ask me enough questions about my family. It'd be if they said that, I'd be like, "Oh man, what? Tell me about your family." But they're not going to say that.
exactly. Okay, good. So let's do this. We have time here to take before we get into the next section here. I want to before our guest speaker comes on, we got a few minutes. I want to talk about answer anybody else that has a question. I see some things going on in the chat. So let's see what we got here. Yeah. Oh, that's Ricky on the call. Yeah, Ricky, you're right. Okay. That analogy. My mindset is every door I knock, I look like I'm having an amazing day and sharing my energy with homeowners. Good for you. Good job. Always agree with the customer. Excellent. Okay, so here's something that one of these questions brought up. Ricky said, the more you talk to them about it, the more you'll realize it's concerns and trust. Okay, so he's agreeing with that. So let me see if we can do this. Back to speaker, and we'll go. Can you, I wonder if I can do that. Changing the
Yeah, that
view
was
here.
when I said that last part, Harry. It was more so what do you call it? Yeah, it was more so when they throw an objection at you. It's more so talk through it, and then over time, since I'm in the solar industry, it's not a doorstep decision. They really do actually have time to really talk about it with their spouse. It's true, but one of the biggest things I've realized and overcoming like between 4 to 7 times an objection, I've gotten someone to do it. Like someone's told me not interested. Oh, I don't know if I'm gonna ever do it. I'm not sure if it's gonna be right for me. I just go through all that with them, and then they actually tell me the real reasons why they don't think they will, or why they don't feel like they want to, And then I'm
What are
like,
some of
okay,
what
they
are some of
clearly
the
met
real
needs.
reasons?
So in the solar industry, you have what in the short time I've been there for like barely 6 months now. I mean, it's more so just the good and the bad reps. You have reps that are going to either overprice someone or say something that's not inherently true from what they presented at the doors. So what I like to say at the doors is I don't like to give them too much info. What I like to do, and if they ask me some certain types of like buying questions, for example, or leasing, I'll just be like, that's a great question, but I'm gonna be very, very honest with you. No, my manager knows a lot more about it than I do. I'm really just at the end of the day, I'm just the eyes to the project. I'm just simply here to deliver information, just like your mailman delivers you mail, right? And that's literally the way I word it. Just like your mailman delivers you mail, I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm just simply delivering the information I know. I'm really just the eyes to the hole. I'm just getting here to get the ball rolling. And they're like, oh, okay, okay. Yeah.
So this,
They're like,
so
oh,
this,
that makes sense then.
this is perfect, Ricky. Thanks for sharing that. So guys,
Yeah.
again, honesty and transparency is what your prospects want. And Ricky goes door to door, and that's where I got a lot of my training and experience is going door to door. And
Mhm.
and that is an amazing opportunity to get face to face with a client because they can see it in your eyes. They can see it just like Zoom. They can see it just like the telephone is different. They can't. That's why telemarketers get such a bad rep. It's because they can tell you anything they want. Once they're off the phone, you get something that you didn't order that you thought was something else, and you say, "I don't want this," and then there's no there's no refund in your SOL. So it's face to face. That's one of the things, in my opinion, what's great about Zoom. Not only can we talk around the world, but people can actually see you. They can see you, and the way the world works is they judge a book by its cover. They can look in your eyes and they can see, okay, is this guy telling me the truth? Is he twitching? Is he looking around? Is he, you know, what's he doing? Can I really trust him? And does he believe in what he's doing? Does he believe in what he's saying? Does he believe in what he's selling? And that's an important feature. And again, no matter what you guys are selling, what your products are, and what your business is, that trust and rapport is critical. So thanks, Ricky, for bringing that up. It looks like he dropped off, but thanks for bringing that up. Anybody else have a question, concern? Yes, Latara, you're on mute.
Sorry, I had to go back through my notes because I have like 3 pages now. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, when it comes to scripting, if you're how can I say this? If every time you talk to a prospect, you're kind of putting together a custom order for them to fit their needs, how do you script that in advance?
So that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked that. Um, how many of you saw the movie 8 Mile with Eminem? Two of you. Okay. Do you guys all know who Eminem is? Okay. He's a rapper from Detroit. I grew up about 5 miles away from where he made his debut. 8 Mile is a main road that used to be called Baseline Drive because every road in Michigan used to come off of that road. But um, in that movie, the way he ended the movie was it's called the Eminem close. The Eminem close is that he said there was a rapping war, a battle between two rappers, the two top people, and they were going for a prize to be the top person. And the way to win was to downgrade and to ridicule in a rap song about the person that you were competing against. And what Eminem did is he did the rap about him. He took all the ammunition away from the guy that was going to compete with him. And when it was the other guy's turn, he had nothing to say because it was already said. So he walked off the stage and there was no competition. He forfeited. He reneged. So when you build your script, build it so you have every potential objection that somebody could come up with. So whatever you're selling, if you're selling website design, what are potential objections that come up in website design? Well, who's the hosting? Who's your domain with? Who's your what format are you using? What are you using? Canva? Are you using Kajabi? What platform are you using to build your website? These are all potential objections. Well, I don't like them. I like them. How about getting a VA? Do you hire a VA? Do you hire a company that specializes in websites? Why is one website builder $4,000? Another one I can do for 1,500. What's the difference? So if you know these going in, whatever your product, I'm just using that as an example. Why term insurance? Why whole life? Why universal life? Why do I need one when I can invest my own money? Why don't I just buy term and then do my own investing? Well, there's some strategies involved in that. So if I know that's going to be a reason for me, then or an objection that's going to come to me or a question that's going to come to me, I can build that in my presentation by saying, so here's what a lot of our customers feel. They feel, why should I get this when I could get this? And it's a great question. You probably have it too. So let me share with you the benefits of this over this. Let me share with you the advantages. Let me share with you why this. Does that help a little bit? So you're not going to have all the nuances because every customer is different. But if you're prepared for it on what it could be, so for example, we had going door to door. We had the client say, listen, your customer service is horrible. I swear I'd never go back. Now, most of my sales trainees, they took offense by that. And I did at first too. It was very difficult for me to hear that until I understood what the question was. They weren't mad at me. They were mad at the company I was representing. So I didn't take it personal. So I learned how to address that concern by saying, you know what? You're absolutely right. It was horrible. That's one of the reasons why they have us good looking guys out here knocking on doors face to face with the customers. And they started laughing. And they said, okay, what do you got? So we inoculated it. So they don't always come up in the front end of the script, but if you're ready for the objection, if you're prepared for it with an answer like that, there's no confrontation. They challenged me expecting a confrontation. And when I agreed with them, it changed the dynamics of the entire conversation. Say, let me tell you that. Let me ask you this. Did you get one of those hourly employees making minimum wage that just doesn't care? They said, yeah, I did. How did you know? That's why they got us out here face to face talking to the customers, because they want you to know that we know it's a problem. We're making changes. It's not 100% perfect. So I was honest. It's still not 100% perfect. You still may have problems, but I'm going to give you my personal phone number. So if you do have any issues, you can call me first. So I took it away and I became part of the solution instead of focusing on the problem. I didn't take it personal. Does that help? Okay. So building it into your script, building it into your presentation is part of the, and again, it doesn't have to be on the front end. If you're expecting the objection, if you know it's coming and you practice it enough times, it's comfortable for you. Like Ricky was talking about, say, listen, that's a great question. Listen, I understand your concern totally. Again, give it the hand gestures or whatever. Even if I'm on the phone, I'm walking, pacing the floor, and I got my hand gestures going because that's just who I am. I really want to understand my client and want to understand my prospects' concerns, because if I truly have an answer for them, if I can truly benefit them, if I can truly save them $50 a month, if I can truly give them a service and change their life forever, I'm going to do everything I can to sell them on why they need to join. Sell them on why they need to purchase. Sell them on why they need to do it. Here's the outside of that. If you can't help them legitimately, there were people that we couldn't save any money or give them better services. I walked away. I said, listen, you got a great plan. Don't change it because you can't get that plan anymore. Stick with it and you got it and you'll do fine. And I walked away. And you know what? They respected me enough where they say, hey, come back. I want you to go talk to my neighbor. They gave me referrals instead of just blowing me off. So when you can comfortably, knowing that you did your best, you still can't, and it's not good enough, feel comfortable walking away. So I went kind of around the block, but did you get the answer to your question? Okay. Okay, there's some stuff in the chat. I'm not yet an expert at chat here. Okay, mine are different most of the time too, but it's usually the confidence, emotion, or sense of security that they're buying. So I don't have to have a new script every time, just a product part, which is really like 10 minutes, okay? What they're buying is a solution to their problems, not the product. That's correct. They're buying a solution. Thank you for that. Great idea. Okay, cool. Adding bonuses to your offer when possible is great to close more people. Yeah, there's a whole strategy on building an offer. Alex Ramosi's got a great training. It's a free training online if you're building an offer for if you're a solopreneur, if you're selling for a company. Here's something that will really help you guys. Is your prospect can only be about 10% as excited and enthusiastic as you are about what you're selling. 10%. So if you're not really over enthusiastic, over excited, over into the presentation, they're only 10% of that. So you've got to really jack it up to get them up to 40, 50%. That way they can buy you. Say, man, I don't know what he was selling, but he was so excited I bought one anyway. So that's the kind of enthusiasm you want to have. And this comes across in belief and integrity. It helps build trust. And remember, they're buying you. So if you're taking the objections personally, if you're taking them like an attack on you, it's going to come across in your response. This is all part of the trust and rapport. This is all part of the. Here's what they're doing. One of the things they're doing. Again, this is the psychological part. This is the part that you want to understand. You'll eventually get there. Write it down anyway, because you'll eventually get there. But this is what you want to understand. Is a lot of times they are challenging you, one, to see how much you really know. Two, to see how much you really believe. And three, to see how much you believe it's going to benefit them. So they challenge you on purpose and to see what your personality is. How are you going to respond? Some of you have seen the little video that I have of one of my trainees. You're going to see him in just a little bit here, not live, but I've got a picture of him. I've got a video of him, and I took him out training one day, and I think it was his first day. And we went to a door, we knocked on the door, and the guy said, "Oh," saw the name of the company, slammed the door on us. So we walked off the porch, and he started walking to the next house because he didn't know any better. I said, "No, come over here." We went to the side door, we knocked on the side door. He goes, "Are you crazy? We're going to get in a fight. We're going to get beat up." And knocked on the door, and the guy says, "What are you doing? I just told you to get out of here." I said, "Oh," he goes, "The guy at the front door." I said, "The guy at the front door was kind of rude. I figured somebody different would answer the side door and would at least listen to what we had to say." And the guy's busted out laughing. He says, "Okay." He goes, "I've never heard that before." He goes, "Come on in." We ended up writing a triple play, sold 3 products to the guy, cable phone and internet. And, so it's the confidence level. I didn't take the door slam personally. And here was the philosophy I had. And I encourage you to have it. If you do a well-delivered presentation and the client says no, respect the hell out of them. Because they're an adult. They can make an adult decision. But if they don't even let you do the presentation, I got no respect for them at all. I'm going to do everything I can to get them to hear the presentation. And that's what I did. I went to the side door. So I did 2 things. 1, I got a client. 2, my confidence. And 3, I trained my new guy. And he ended up making $98,000 his first year because he saw that you don't have to get personal about an objection or rejection or a door slammed in your face. There's a way around it. Okay. So just making sense to you guys? Just helping out? Okay, let's go ahead and get into the next topic here. My guest is a little bit late. He'll be here in just a second, but let's go ahead and actually let me send him a quick message here. Okay. Let's get back here. All right, perfect. Okay, so let's until he gets on, we will talk about the next thing. This is how to handle almost any objection. Once you do the front end, you've got your list, you learn how to prevent most objections from even starting in the first place. I'm sorry, Latar, did you have a question?
Well, you can say what you're going to say. I can ask it later.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So once you have all the prep done, you've got you prevented most objections. You're gonna, until you get to that point, you're gonna get some stuff. So how do you handle any objection? Almost any objection you can handle. Here's a key thing for you is responding versus reacting. Okay, you know what? Our guest just came on, so I'm gonna finish this in just a minute. But write that down: responding versus reacting. So I'm gonna have our guest come on, and then we'll finish up with what I'm gonna do. And so, Sam, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
gonna introduce Sam here real quick. Sam, actually, you could probably introduce yourself better than I can because all I'm doing, what I remember is you're a wanted commodity. People all over the country, you fly in different cities, you train crews and teams and companies. And I saw one of your trainings. It was the multiple bit objection, the 3-bit objection, and I loved it. And I wanted you to see if you'd come on and share it with our group today. So I appreciate you taking time out of your day to share it with us.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me. Sorry, I was running slightly delayed a little bit. So, yeah, but I'm so grateful that I'm here. And you're right. Yeah, I'm all over the country. I was just in Raleigh, North Carolina last week. I'm headed to Boise, Idaho in a couple more weeks, so all over the place. And yeah, actually, I'm going to springboard a little bit off of what I heard when I was just popping in as responding versus reacting. That is absolutely kind of going into the 3-bit objection that we're going to talk about. That's actually kind of a foundational element for that, because so many times when we're in a sales conversation, that if we're not used to that conversation, what happens is we get those butterflies, the nerves. They say, okay, well, send me some information and I'll get back to you. And it's like, I don't know how to say, I don't know how to react, right? And a lot of that comes from, one, just the experience, right? But more than that, I think a lot of times nobody just ever taught us the right language around it. So if we just have the words to use and the mindset, then it becomes so much easier. And because my whole thing is sales on easy. It doesn't have to be hard. Yes, we always hear, we're serving, we're helping, just help them. But also, there's some psychology behind some of the language, right? If we know the words to say, it makes it easy. So, who on here is would like to learn a little bit when people say, okay, yeah, I like what you got, but I'm going to look at a couple other things too, and then decide, would you like to hear a little bit of ways to handle that? That'd be great, right? And yeah, hey Nigel, how's it going, man? I see you in here. Good stuff. So can everybody hear me? Okay, is that we're clear? Good. All right.
Yeah,
So
just so you know, we have quite a few people that are on listen only. They're not on video, so you've got a larger crew than you're looking at.
oh, perfect. Yeah. Hey, sounds great. So yeah. So my name is Sam Wakefield. I am. My company is Close It Now. It's just when I originally developed that, I was like, okay, well that's a great name for a sales training organization. Let's just close it now. There's no need to wait or have to get 3 bids or close it later, right? Don't build in. One of the first principles is, so many people build in extra work for themselves by turning their appointments into 2 or 3 or 4 visits, and then you end up chasing your tail and chasing them, and then it turns into this like smarmy used car salesperson type of approach, because then we end up begging them, I'm following up, hey, touching base, circling back, right? And that's a mess. Nobody has time for that. So let's just handle it right the first time. So the foundation for handling the multiple bids objection comes from, 1, 3 bids is not a real objection. We have to understand that at the foundation of it, it's just a smokescreen. There's no meat behind 3 bids. It's just, 1, they don't know what to say, and 2, it's covering for something else. So when people get 3 bids, what are they doing? They're comparing. They're looking for something they haven't seen yet. All these things. What do we hear? Oh, I just got to do my due diligence, or I just want to make sure your pricing is good. Got to keep you honest, or we just don't know. So one of the things that I always say is, there's not a single objection that we can't overcome by asking more questions. The one thing, very first principle, and write this down, just ask more questions. Anyone I ever work with, I guarantee you, nobody asks enough questions. And when you've built enough rapport to be able to ask the questions, as long as people are answering questions, the sales conversation is ongoing. As long as they're answering, drive down that road. Don't be scared to ask more questions. But they have to be clarifying questions. We have to know where the foundation of their, what they're saying is coming from. So the sequence is really simple. So first of all, before we get into the 3 bids, I'm going to teach y'all a principle I call it the permission stack, and this will change everything in your conversations, right? I'm sure Harry has probably gone over a little bit of this, but in everything we do, we have to have permission to present it. So raise your hand if you'd like to hear what the permission stack is. Yay, all right. So step one is asking permission, right? We have to have permission to present. We have to have permission to ask questions, all the things. So when you're in the closing sequence and somebody gives you, yep, you know what? I'm just going to pick a name here. Yeah, Valerie, everything looks great. Sounds good. I like what you got. Just got to get, I'm going to talk to a couple other people. Got to think about it. And then the first step is just, okay, no problem. So we've got to acknowledge it. Yeah, no problem. I hear you. Do you mind if I ask you a couple questions? And they're going to say, well, of course. Yeah, absolutely. But what did that do? If you just start asking questions immediately without doing that, then you're giving them pushback. If you ask, do you mind if I ask you a couple questions? And they say, yeah, of course you can. Well, what did that do? The wall drops back down. Their eyes aren't going to glaze over. It keeps them engaged, and they just gave you permission to go further into the conversation. So that's always step one, is asking permission. So that's the step one of the permission stack. So we're going to go through the rest of the permission stack, and then we'll get into the actual sequence for the multiple bids. So step two of the permission stack is the data, whatever the data is. So let's see. What is everybody selling here? I'd love to have a little bit of either throw it in the chat box or just unmute and somebody shout out what you're selling.
Financial planning.
Financial planning. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Dallas.
Furnace, air conditioners.
For HVAC, yep, for sure.
HVAC.
Okay. Let's do let's see, and I see digital marketing services. Let's do one off of financial planning and home improvements. Thanks, Alicia. So take financial planning, right? So Dallas, what is a question that people ask a lot about, a service that you have?
Sometimes it's more like general. What is it that you actually do, or
Sure.
How long does this take? Sometimes they're concerned about, the cost. Very, very rarely, actually, they're concerned about the cost, but more like what they're getting for
what they're getting. Sure.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, what do you have services for XYZ, right? Or what do you do anything that does this? So the permission stack in that kind of situation would sound something like, yeah, we have some really great options for that. Would you like to hear what they are? Instead of when they ask, what all is it do you do? If you instantly go into, telling them, then that gives them big pushback. So with the permission stack, by saying, yeah, we have some great options for that. Would you like to hear what they are? They say, yeah, of course. And then that wall drops, and they just gave you permission to present exactly, what it is that we're about to talk about. In the example with Nigel of like, I always in HVAC, that's my foundation. I always use the example of like, everybody knows about air filters, right? We all know we got to change our filter. But also, did you know there's, multiple layers or levels of the quality of air filters and what can be done? So anytime somebody asks me, hey, is there a better way to filter the air? And we're like, yeah, we've got some great options for that. Would you like to hear what they are? It could, and this really applies to anything. Anything you do, when somebody asks a question, get permission to present, and everything will change. Because otherwise, what happens? You start answering their questions directly, and it's like they check out. Their wall goes up, eyes glaze over, they might grab their phone and start texting. And you're like, wait a minute, you just asked me about this. Why are you checking out? But this permission stack will change everything in that conversation. So that's a principle that you can use for everything you do. So now let's get back to the 3 bids. So step one is, do you mind if I ask you a few questions? They're like, sure, of course. And this is in your sequence where, you've probably already presented options and price. So this is kind of like what would normally be the wrap up. And they're like, okay, yeah, absolutely. You can ask some questions. So when you get those 3 bids, or 4 or 5 or whatever, are you, and so now we're going to ask clarifying questions. So are you just trying to make sure that you're getting enough value for your dollar? Or do you think there's, maybe a product or service out there that we didn't talk about that you might be missing out on, fear of missing out? Which one are you? So what did we do? We gave them a couple options for a couple buckets they could fall in, the two most common, most likely buckets. And now we're past the three bids, and we'll say, okay, why are you getting the three bids? Right. So when you're like, okay, and this is really, really great verbiage. So, and I'm glad Harry's recording this. So when you get those three bids, are you just trying to make sure you're getting enough value for the dollar, or there's something that you think you might be missing out on that we didn't talk about today, something else? And let them answer, right? So that now you're going to find out, is it price they're concerned about, or is it something else? Because some people in the three bids, they might be perfectly fine with price. We falsely assume most of the time when somebody says three bids, they're price shopping. That's not always the case. And so we've got to make sure of that. And so that's step one. And then depending on how they respond, there's really three buckets out of that. Either most of the time it's going to be value for the dollar. And then the way that you qualify out of that, every industry handles, price objection a little bit differently. And then the FOMO, fear of missing out, we handle that a little bit differently. And then there's the third category, which is basically somebody that says, well, grandpa always got three bids and dad always said to get three bids, and I've just always done it this way and never made a decision without sleeping on it. Right? Got to sleep on it. Okay, well, what are you going to put it under your pillow? Come on. But and so there's really those three buckets. So let's cruise through and handle each of those really quickly. And where are we at on time? Okay, good. We're good on time. So we'll go through and we'll handle each of those like pretty high level. But the main principle I want you to understand with anytime you're getting objections, the three bids objection or any other kind of objection, is we have to ask enough clarifying questions to understand where their objection or where their question is coming from. And also understanding that if there's an objection, that means they still want to do business with you. They just have a question that hasn't been answered yet. And that's our mindset around it. And so understanding that, man, that makes it easy. If they're still bringing stuff up, awesome. That means they're ready to buy. I just haven't answered enough questions yet. Which is exciting because then all right, this is a good one. And so, asking those clarifying questions is super important. So if it's price, every industry has a little bit different way to handle that. Some industries have like a price match guarantee. Some industries have well, let's break it down and show you where the value comes from, right? But every bit of handling the price objection comes from your certainty that you're representing something that you absolutely believe in. If you are confident in it, if you're certain in it, if you are certain that it's going to solve their problem, that will transfer. Was it Brian Tracy says sales is the transfer of enthusiasm, right? And so it's really, really, really important that you believe in what you're doing. There's two places confidence comes from. Anybody know where those two places are? You can totally shout it out. It's fine. I like it. Throw it in the chat box, unmute yourself. I like engagement here. Two places confidence comes from. Anybody?
Success.
So it's experience or preparation. Experience and preparation. If you don't have, say you're new to what you're doing, and you don't have the experience yet, you can prepare. And that builds your confidence also. When you start over time, you get both of those together. Now you become deadly, right? One shot, one kill every time. That's why, you have a lot of the things I've talked about a lot are work to become someone worth buying from. So it has to do with your personal growth to get you there, and just be confident and believe in what you do. And that will accomplish a lot. So price objection has to do with certainty. It has to do with, knowing that things are a quality, right? And so here's a really good verbiage for you for the price objection. If somebody's like, oh my gosh, the price is the price, right? And the first thing to understand is it doesn't matter what the price is, you're always going to get just a sticker shock at first. Just got to give them time to process it. A lot of times it doesn't mean no, it just means, oh, I didn't expect that. Okay, no problem. But when you hear the words expensive, that seems expensive. Here's a really great word track for you. And I'll just use Harry as my my homeowner. My example, I say homeowner because I'm so used to talking to home services, but for anything, you'll be my client. Harry is like, yeah, Harry, it is expensive. Would you agree that it takes a lot of work to do it right? Would you agree that, I mean, when you cut corners to get something cheaper, does that always turn out in your, what you want it to be?
No, just the opposite.
Yeah. I was like, have you ever got some, I'm not talking about getting something on sale. Have you ever gone with the cheap thing and had a great result because of it? No. So see what I'm doing, a couple things, right? One is it's a leading question. Two is we're asking more questions, right? So, and the psychology behind why we're asking these questions is helping them see, because they're trying to like be so, your buyer is like so blinded, right? They're trying to be very, very much zoom into this one particular thing. And we have to help them zoom out to, in your life, when you've done this in the past, has that ever worked out for you and been a good thing? And they'll say, well, no. So why do you think it would work out here? Why don't we just go ahead and trust me? And really, so much of it is like, if you'll trust me with this one thing, then I will earn your business. I'll prove to you how amazing it is. And so right there is a perfect time to insert story about, you remind me of my other clients that felt the same, felt found. They used to feel the same way. They 100% said the same thing you did just now. But once they tried it, once they did it, once they used it, once they've experienced it, now, would you like to hear about their story because it's so cool? Right. And so we just turn it right around. And so much of it is asking those questions. Ricky, use that in your industry. Yeah, perfect. What's your industry, Ricky? I'm curious.
I'm in solar. So
bro, yeah.
I've gotten that quite a few times. Like, I don't know if I can afford it. I don't know if it's too expensive. Well, no, I totally, what I say is, hey, I totally got you, there's a lot of misinformation. Would you agree that there's just a lot of misinformation? You just sometimes don't have really reps that explain it thoroughly enough for you to understand. I usually will use that, or I'll say, or your neighbor Jones, for example, she felt the same exact way. I actually talked to her about her solar experience right now, because I like to knock doors that have it just in case, they haven't got screwed over. But what she told me was she felt the same way, but after she did it, she loves it. She's like, I'm not paying UI, I'm not paying the utility company anymore. I own my power.
Love it. Yeah, man, you totally got it. So here's one more way. I'm going to give y'all one more word track. Thanks, Ricky, for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
sure. I'm gonna all of y'all one more word track to handle the multiple bids. Quick, because I'm running out of time here. Thank you. I'll make sure this is the extra couple minutes here is worth the time here. I appreciate it.
You're doing great, man. You're doing great.
So the another word track that you can use for 3 bids. So view this through 2 different lenses. All of you listening and watching here. One lens is view it from the surface level of what's going on in this word track to handle this objection. The second lens I want you to view this through is what's going on behind the scenes. So put yourself, as I go through this, put yourself both in the seat of you're doing the sales presentation, you're doing the sales, and also put yourself in the seat of the buyer. And I want you to sink into how you would emotionally and mentally respond, or how you would feel in this conversation, because I think this is one of my very favorite ways to handle the 3 bids. Okay, so is it Latara?
Yep.
Latara, be my buyer here real quick and
Okay.
give me the three bits. Oh, everything looks great, but I've just got to get another couple quotes and or get another look at a couple other things, and then we'll get back to you.
Yeah, it's just my personal rule of thumb. I always like to get multiple bids before I make a decision.
Okay, totally understand. Latara, do you mind if I ask you a couple questions?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. You know, um, one of the things I always like to ask is, you were comfortable with our company, right? I mean, the companies, you're good with our company?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Absolutely. And then me as your representative, right? You
Hmm.
you are comfortable with me and what we talked about today as far as my experience?
Yeah.
Awesome. And and so insert project or service, and real tie down language here, everybody. You can definitely see how what we're talking about today is going to absolutely solve the problems that we talked about, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So let me ask you, when you get those three bids, um, and I've done the same thing, Latar. I've totally, in fact, recently, my wife and I, we went through a project and we got three bids and we picked the one that we thought was going to be the best, and it turns out it was a bad decision. I had wished I had picked somebody else. Have you ever done that?
Yes.
So really, three bids isn't any kind of protection, is it?
Wow. I never thought of it like that.
Right. And so, and let me ask you this. I mean, so at the end of the day, it's just really kind of a gut check, going with your intuition of picking who you think is the best, right?
Hmm.
So let me ask you this: how are you feeling about what's your gut saying about our company right now?
I like you. You're a pretty swell guy. I don't mind working with you.
Okay. Well, and in the past, I mean, have you ever gone against your gut and made a decision against what your intuition says?
Yes,
How'd that turn out for you?
badly.
Right? Yeah, totally agree. I've done the same thing myself. So, I mean, why don't we just get on the calendar and why don't we just go ahead and get this knocked out and go ahead and get it done for you?
Hmm. Okay.
Awesome.
I might have to talk to my husband first.
Oh, perfect. Okay, now we're getting into one leg, and that's a
Yeah.
whole different conversation. But so does everybody feel what just happened in that conversation? One, we're helping them see, oh, you're right. I've gone through the three bids process over and over and still made a bad decision. So it's no protection. And it's really about that intuition. And the flip side of that too is when you ask somebody, because this has happened to me a few times. So have you ever made a decision and gone against your gut? And they'll say no. So that's an easy one to say, okay, great. Oh, high five. You're really excellent at making great decisions. Can you imagine what it would have been like had you gone against it? And they say, oh, it would have been bad. Perfect. So what's your gut saying about us right now? And they'll say, and because you're in the process, you're in the sales experience, the emotions are high, energy is high, the gut is going to be saying something good unless you didn't clarify those first three things. There's four sales that have to be made. They have to be good with the company. They got to be good with you. They have to be good with the service or product. And then the price is the fourth one. So this is what we're handling with three bids. And that's it. That's really how the really nice, simple, easy way to handle it. There's lots of other ways, but does that make sense to everybody? Awesome.
That
Any
is great.
do we have a second for a small Q&A here?
We do.
All right. Anybody have any questions that or anything they want to cover here super quick? I guess we're good, Harry.
You must have did an amazing job.
I feel like I just got started. I'm used to doing this for days.
I know, right? It's
No, you're good.
when you get in the role of it, and you get in the process, you just want to keep on going. You just want to you want
100%.
to give it all.
This is good exercise for me to remember to break things down into tiny parts.
No, I really
Um,
appreciate you coming on. I know you're busy and everybody wants you. Thank you so much for sharing that, because this is good stuff. They've got people on here like Ricky and others that and Latara that have that objection more than often.
Oh my gosh, it's the one that, as in a Western society, there's only like 2, 3 objections, and we have to face it. One is, so it's really cool thing. So super quick like philosophy thing. In Western culture, we're horrible negotiators. Nobody knows how to negotiate. What are the 2 objections we get? Either I got to think about it, or 3 bids, and neither one of those is a real objection, and that's all we got. So if we just learn a little bit of language, how to handle it, that also means if you educate yourself from guys like Harry, how to handle those conversations, that then you will quickly excel and be able to close things, because also we're Western culture's bad negotiators. So you handle a couple things and they're like, they have nowhere left else to go other than, okay, well, let's do it. And so it's really great. And so it's
Sam,
kind of like painting them into a corner.
yeah, before you sign off, I just wanted to bring everybody back to part of the conversation that I have as far as what Sam is doing, responding versus reacting. When he got the objection, he didn't react and panic and say, well, why do you need to talk to 3 companies? I'm right here. He didn't react and say negative. He responded and agreed with them, say, okay, I can understand that. So responding, and he didn't change his mannerisms either. He didn't change his tone of voice. Everything is just straight. So he's had this so many times, and he's taught this so many times, that he has learned the elegant way of responding as opposed and conversational as opposed to confrontational and reacting. And that's huge. I mean, that's a major piece to the puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Last thing, super quick to kind of bounce off of that, is in any of your presentations, it doesn't matter what you're selling, when you get to, because your energy leads the appointment, right? As soon as you cross the moment of rapport in your appointment, then your energy is going to lead the appointment. When you're going through the pain points, it's nice and low and, oh, this is bad. When you're painting the picture of what life is going to be like after they have your product or service, oh, this is awesome, it's amazing, you're going to love it. But this is crucial. The moment that you get to the money, the minute money comes out, and don't do it, money better not be on the table before it's time to talk about money. But when the money comes out, your tone of voice and your energy is all of a sudden slow and low. And your entire mindset is no big deal. We're going to figure this out. Whatever comes up, your tonality is, it's no big deal. Because remember, they're choosing you. It's like picking a restaurant. Everything else is ordering off the menu. Once somebody finds the restaurant they want to go to, they're not leaving to go somewhere else. It's just, if they can't decide, it's like, oh, I don't know if I want the steak or the shrimp. Okay, it's just a matter of picking off the menu. So do not let, in that conversation, don't let indecision in which package from you that they want or which service stop the sale, because they've already picked you as the restaurant. Just help them figure out what they're ordering off the menu. Same thing with the money. If it's a matter of figuring out how to pay for it, or just, and that's your job as sales, is showing people how they can afford it. And the second you do that, it becomes a game changer. So remember, your tonality and everything is slow and low, and it's no big deal. No problem. Whatever objection comes up, no problem. We'll figure it out. And here my tonality totally changed there. And it's very, very important. So there's your ninja trick for the day.
All right. That's awesome. Thank you so much again,
Yeah.
Sam. Really appreciate you, brother.
You're welcome, man. Y'all have a great one. If anybody wants to, can I plug my podcast super quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I do have a podcast. There's, I don't know, 130 episodes now. Harry was a guest on one of them as well. So find Harry's episode, but just look for Close It Now. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on Spotify, Stitcher, all the places you can listen to podcasts. So just Close It Now. It's very HVAC focused. However, people in 100 different trades and industries have messaged me, because mostly what I cover is philosophy. We get into the nitty gritty periodically on details of the specific industry, but it's sales philosophy for the most part. So with a lot of people. So definitely value add for you. You know, whoever wants to listen, there's a lot of content there that we go over the full 3 bids training is in there as well.
Awesome. And of course,
Uh,
my episode didn't talk anything about HVAC, so
No, not at all. In fact, I like
So-
to not talk about HVAC a lot of times because it just sales is sales, right? It's
it.
connecting with people, it's serving, and it's understanding the psychology of, what's going on. Super quick, Latar. This is a Shure SM57. So there you go. All right. Well, y'all have a great rest of your training with Harry. He is a total badass and 100% support him in what he does. So thanks for having me on, y'all.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate you. God bless
See
you.
ya.
All right. Was that awesome, right? There you go. Looks like we got a question here before we move on. Go ahead, Izzy. You got a question? Or are you just clapping? No, you're clapping. I'm sorry. That's cool. Okay. So let's pick up where we left off here. That was a nice little break there with Sam. I'm glad you guys got an opportunity to see it. In fact, before I start, can you see how a lot of his messaging actually complements what I've been saying for the first part, and what I've been saying complements what he's talking about? The words are different, obviously, but the process is the same. Like he said, sales is sales. The basics never change. It's understanding the psychology, understanding the words, when to use them, how to use them, and what order to put them in, and not in responding versus reacting. So we're going to pick it up right there, responding versus reacting. And if you understand this, some of your prospects, they'll use objections as a way of testing you, like I talked about earlier, test to see how you react. Conversational, confrontational, understanding. Do you actually understand them? So they don't want to understand you and what you can offer. They'll get to that later. But what they want is to make sure that you understand them and their needs. And if you don't show that you understand their needs, they tune out, as if you don't really care about them. You care about the money you're going to make off of them. Here's a phrase for you that will really help. And this is a philosophy that you want to implement in your entire sales process. If you care more about the client and the results that they're going to get on your product and service than you do about the commission you're going to make, the money will hunt you down. And that philosophy has to be in the way you present, in the way you communicate, in the way you talk. See if we can get that. No, it's not letting me. Okay. Oh, let's go back. Okay, so care more about the results your prospect is going to get on the products and services you offer. Otherwise, more than the commission that you make off the sale. Same thing. Anybody that's in the network marketing industry that's not, or building a team. Any team builders on the call here today? If you care more about your sales reps and the money that they make, as opposed to the commission you make off of them, the money will hunt you down. If you care about the money you're going to make off of them more, it's not. It's going to pull away from you. Okay. Most of your prospects want to buy from you. They just don't want to be sold. They want to be understood by you instead of listening to you, trying to get them to understand you. They don't want to be sold, but they do want to buy. That's where the relationship, that's where the conversation comes in. That's what Sam just exemplified in the way he said that with the 3 questions. I'm sorry, the 3 bids and the tonality, how he structured that. Now he's done it so many times, not only teaching it, but he actually did it in the field. He was a superstar in the field. He mastered it, similar to what I did selling cable door to door. He did the HVAC, and now he's teaching and training all over the country. So it's what you, again, it's not what you say, it's how you feel about what you say. Okay. Before we get into the third one, which is overcoming almost every objection, I want to share with you guys how to connect with me. So let's do this. Get out of here. and go in here. So some of the people that connect with me, here's one of my current clients. She just posted this a week ago. Just wanted to give Harry a shout out. Been in her industry for 10 years and she hit a roadblock. So many of us hit a roadblock. We may be doing something for 5 years, we may be doing something for 10, 20, 15, whatever it is. If you hit a roadblock and you need that extra influence, I gave her some talk tracks, some tweaks, tried them for 2 days now. She already booked 4 new meetings. She's been booking more meetings over the last 2 months than she has over the last year. Dan, this is the guy I was telling you about as far as going from the back door to the side door, or the front door to the side door. Excuse me. He did various things before I met him. Construction, everything. He never made more than 60,000 in any year. And his first year working with me made 98,000. Bonnie, let's see, get this out of the way. Network marketing industry. She posted Harry's knowledge and strategies helped me double my results in 60 days. Izzy, he's actually on the call here today. In fact, maybe we can get him live in just a minute. After working with me 13 sales in 11 days. Right now I'm doing something special, a free call, so that I can know you better, know your journey better, know your struggles better, and see how I can add value to your business. You can't buy anything from me on that call. Just like today, I'm not selling anything, just except for you to connect with me. Even if you want to. I'm really selective about what clients I work with and never move forward on the first call, but I am inviting you to make a call to me. I'll be offering you some free resources on the call to further your understanding of not only what I do, but it will take to move the needle in your business and increase your sales success. Schedule your free call as soon as we get done. And that way we can get to know each other better. Here's my information. I'm going to put this in the chat if I can copy and paste. It won't let me copy. I don't want to do that. Okay, let me do this. Let me copy it here. No. Okay, let's do one more try here. There we go. Figured it out. Copy. Put it in the chat. And I invite every one of you to reach out to me, set up an appointment with me. Again, I'm not selling anything on that call. Just get to know you better. See if there's a way I can help. I didn't send that to everybody. Let me do this to everyone. Here we go. Perfect. So you can text me, email me, go to my Calendly. And so that's what I'm offering today, just to give me a call, free session there to get to know you a bit better. Okay, so let's talk about the last piece to the puzzle here. Overcoming almost any objection if you do get them. And then we'll do some role play. Those of you that are on the line, you want to do some role play. Hopefully you brought your biggest objections that you're getting that's holding you back, that's preventing you from moving to the next step. So here we go. First thing, overcoming almost any objection is to agree with them on every comment with sincerity. Regardless of the objection, respond with an acknowledgement first. If you do not acknowledge their concern, they stop listening. They shut you off. They realize at that moment that you really don't care. Or they're testing you because, like I said earlier, they're testing you to see, where your integrity lies, where your knowledge lies, where your confidence lies. So acknowledge it. Example. Listen, I completely understand. I agree with you. I feel the same way. I get it. Our company agrees with you. That's why I'm here. Sam gave you a couple of them in his little presentation there. He shared with you how to do it as well. It's important not to get defensive. Don't react, respond. Listen, I get it. I understand. I want to talk to my spouse. Listen, I understand completely. When anybody knocks on our door, I want my spouse to confirm with me too. How about if we do this? Can we get them on the phone? Are they here? There's different ways. Again, don't get defensive. Acknowledge it. If you don't acknowledge it, you lose. You lost. Here's another one. That's the way I feel too. That's exactly what I think. Make sure you tell the truth. Your belief in what you do is important. If you don't understand, then don't say it. Say something else. If you, as soon as you say an untruth, it's over. Even if you get the sale, it's a mess. It's over because you didn't tell the truth. It's very important. You do not compromise your integrity and your truth to make a sale. You don't have to. And if you have a boss, I saw in one of the groups I belong to, somebody was talking about their boss. They didn't mention any names. I don't even know the company, but the context is if your boss, my boss told me to do this, and it was an untruth, and he said little white lies, and my response, everybody's response is find someplace else to work. The guy obviously doesn't believe in what he's doing. He wouldn't have you telling lies. Okay. The psychology of agreeing drops their defenses and puts you on their side. It tells them that you truly do understand. Agreeing with them gives you leverage to continue on with your response that overcomes the objection. Here's another piece. You can isolate the objection. So when they give you an objection, well, I really, I'm not sure if I want to do this right now. I don't know if I have enough money. See, listen, I get it. I completely understand. Is there anything else holding you back from moving forward? Is that your only concern? Get all the objections up front before you start answering them. If you answer the first one before you isolate it, you'll get one after another, after another, after another. If you isolate it, the way I just shared with you, is that your only concern? Is there anything else that's holding you back? Say, yeah, well, this here and this here. Say, is there anything else? No, that's it. Those three things. Okay, great. Why don't we go through those? And you go through them. That's it. They said there's no more objections. You handle those. Okay. So if I can make it, if you feel comfortable with the answer to those three concerns, would you like to move forward? Let's do that. So isolate it. The other thing you can do is investigate. This is a big one. Here's the phrase. Tell me more about that. So they say, I don't have any money right now. Tell me more about that. If you assume the worst, you lose. If you say, tell me more about that, well, I don't get paid until Friday. Okay, great. So Friday is when you can move forward? Yeah, that's when I'd like to move forward. So instead of thinking you lost the sale, you have them tell me more about that. Okay, well, I've got to ask my spouse if it's okay to spend this money. Then you can investigate further. Say, is it permission you're looking for or support you're looking for? Because you're an adult, you're in business, you're doing this thing on your own. You're doing it. This is you. Are you looking for their support or are you looking for their permission? Now say it in a nice way, because if you don't say it in a nice way, that could actually be an insult. So you got to be careful with that one. They say, I don't have any money. Tell me more about that. I don't have any time. Tell me more about that. Well, I'm tied up. I've got 4 things booked. I'm tied up until the first of the month. How about if we do it then? So if you automatically assume that it's over now, instead of investigate, so investigate a little bit and then be quiet and wait for them and listen. Wait for them to answer. Don't keep talking. Once you ask the question, tell me more about that. Be quiet and listen. Every objection or concern needs to be addressed, as it cannot be fluffed off. If you fluff it off, again, you lose. You lose the deal. Can't be scanned over. The worst thing you do is ignore them. This is where third-party validation is very powerful with testimonials and case studies. So like Sam brought it up. Let me tell you about, or Ricky actually, let me tell you about the neighbor down the street, Mrs. Jones. Sam brought it up also. Use a test, insert a story. This is where you can insert a story when somebody talks about no time, no money, and so forth. It's just resonating with y'all? Yeah? Okay. We've got quite a few people that are on audio only. They're not on video. And that's okay. I have no problem with that. But what I want to do is I want to offer some role play. And you guys you can raise your hand or do it the old fashioned way. You can do it, or digitally, you can raise it on the the board here on the bottom where it says reactions. You can raise your hand. But if you have an objection that's been holding you back, if you have an objection that you get over and over again and you're not getting results on it, I'd love to do an opportunity to role play here with anybody. So anybody want to jump in and do a role play? Latara, okay, Latara, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay.
Yep, we can hear you. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, so the objection that I get is, well, I can just go to Fiverr and probably save some money.
See, now that's a great objection because that's a serious concern. That's Fiverr's your quote unquote potential competition. A lot of what Sam talked about today, you can actually use in overcoming that objection. What I like to do is if you know that's an objection that's holding you back, can you address that in the script leading up to that? Can you address that by asking different questions? Say, have you talked to anybody else that's a web designer? Have you tried to do it yourself? Have you tried doing the web design yourself? And you're going to start getting feedback. Have you looked at some of the outside do-it-yourself platforms like Canva? If you ask those questions on the front end and then say, why didn't that work? What didn't they give you that you were looking for? What didn't it do? Now, if they say, well, no, I was going to talk to you first and then decide if I wanted to look at Canva. Say, okay. Do you know anything about Canva? Do you know anybody else that's used Canva? Do you know anybody else that's used Kajabi that had success with it? And how long it took them to do it themselves? See, for me, it would be the time.
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of concerned about asking things like that because wouldn't I be convincing them to not work with me if I, bring that up?
Not at all. Here's why. What's the most valuable asset any of us have? Our time. Because nobody knows how much time we have left. So if you can compress time for me, where it's going to take me 4 months or 3 months or 4 weeks to put something together doing it myself, and you can do it in 2 days, 3 days, to me, it's worth paying you. Now, obviously, it would depend on the person you're talking to, but to me, it'd be worth having somebody do that because it's not something that I want to invest time in learning how to do. I want to do what I do best, which is teaching, training, and helping people get to the goals that they want to get to. So it's worth it for me to pay somebody else to do it. Again, you're not going to get everybody, but if you handle it this way, you're going to get 3 or more out of 10. So ask the questions on the front end. Kind of like when I was in the weight loss business, we had a button that said, lose weight now, ask me how. First, somebody says, how? First question we ask is, are you seriously interested? If they say, no, I was just curious, say, well, if you're not serious, the conversation's over. You know what curiosity did to the cat? Killed the cat. So now, if they say, yes, I'm serious, great. How much do you want to lose? They say 40 pounds. Say, awesome. What have you tried before? Why didn't they work? Say, okay, great. I completely understand. Let me tell you about our program. So that little sequence of scripting I just gave you is very common. It has built a $6 billion a year company that's still in business today. One of the most ingenious marketing tools ever invented was that button because it got the conversation going, got the build trust and rapport going. It got people to come to you. You didn't have to go out and solicit people. So asking the questions is key. It's important. And what it does is it lets you know that you're not afraid of those companies. You're not afraid of those things.
Okay.
You're addressing it on the front end. You don't fear it. You're being completely transparent and honest. Say, you know what? A lot of people do use Canva. And it takes them time. It takes them 3 or 4 months to really get it the way they want it. And then they have to usually talk to customer service a few times and they don't get it quite right and the links don't work. And that's probably, very, very common. Is that something you want to deal with, or would you just like a ready to go product that I can deliver to you? So you'll find your ideal clients faster this way, and it'll save you a lot of agony and stress of dealing with problem clients. Does that help you?
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Anybody else have a objection? Yes, Marion.
Thank you, Harry. I think one of the things that I have a challenge dealing with is, can you send me more information? You know, sometimes I just talk about, like, do the presentation, and sometimes if I'm on a Zoom, I will actually show them some of what I'm talking about, like share screen. And if they say, well, can you send me more information? It's like, now what?
Okay, this is really great. I'm gonna answer it in two ways. I'm gonna answer you personally, and I'm gonna share with you what I got going door to door and how we responded to that. So to answer you, I would qualify that question. Anybody, I would qualify that question. What specific information were you looking? Of course I can. I got tons of it. What specific information were you looking for? So qualify the information, because you may have already addressed it. Say, well, yeah, we went over that just a few minutes ago. That was this thing that was this product over here that I was talking about. Is that the one that you're most excited about? So yeah, say, well, that just so happens that I'm an expert at that particular product. What question did you have about that you wanted the information on? I can answer it right now for you.
Okay.
So a lot of times, see, people will rarely say no. That's a question because they're too weak to say no. They're going to come up with that objection just to get you off the phone. So that's one way to answer it. And again, I would test. When I was going door to door, we had people all the time. They said, "Yeah, do you have a flyer you can hand me?" And that used to stump me. And because you hand out 100 flyers and you think 20 people are going to call you back, and nobody calls you back. So what we learned to do is, we were probably the only team in the country that didn't use flyers, and we became the number one team in the country. And the reason was is when they said, do you have a flyer? We just realized that they were too weak to say no. So we said, you know what? We don't. They sent those out. You probably threw it away with your junk mail, didn't you? Just like everybody else. They said, yeah. So that's why they sent me out here face to face. I'm a walking, talking flyer. What particular question did you have? That was one answer. Then the business card one's a different one. That's another way of blowing you off, saying they're not interested. Do you have a business card? I'll call you later. They never call. At first, I was handing out a bunch of business cards. And then I realized that they just go in stacks of business cards, or they go in the round file. So what I realized is, say, you know what? I put my phone number on every one of my work orders. You're going to have my phone number, have access to me. What particular questions did you have? We can get this started right now. See, all I want is a decision. I'm entitled to a decision. If I do a good presentation, I got my script down, I handled all the objections, all I want is a decision, and I don't care what the decision is. I'm entitled to a decision. I've earned the decision. Yes or no is okay with me. I'm not going to yell at you if you say no. Just like people that work with me now. Oh, just give me a decision. That way I don't have to hound you and chase you. And of course, I'm not going to do that anyway. And you don't have to try to track me down. Yes or no is okay with me. But if I don't do a good presentation, that's when I get more questions, more objections. If I do a good presentation, I can handle those because it's comfortable in the conversation. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. We got Izzy here. Izzy, you were one of the stories I featured. If you have a minute, you've been working with me for a couple months now. And before you switch positions, why don't you just quickly share with everybody a little bit about you and what you got going on? Then we'll close it up after that.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can now.
Okay, so
Can't see you, but we can hear you.
you can't see me? I know it's kind of dark here. It's kind of early morning. How's that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You're in Hawaii, aren't you?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't expect to get on, but thank you. You know, I've been working with Coach Harry, and he's an amazing coach. He actually brought me out of the funk. I was not producing as well as I could, and something that you think is obvious to other people, but he turned my sales around. I mean, even now I'm at 15 sales. Every day I have at least one one or two sales a day. Out of this whole November, I've missed only 2 days, and that's because I'm overthinking it, and coach has been pretty much instrumental in making me relax, and just the fact that that one we meet every week, which is invaluable. I mean, I can't tell you, I'm always grateful for that. And he's he's a tough coach, I'm telling you, and he's making my nerves go away just to go in front of my customer. Have you know, being able to overcome objections beforehand, pretty much you know, helped me a lot in getting sales. You know, I want to say thank you to Coach Harry, because you know, even just the objection of, oh, my spouse is not here, that is huge. I think that's half of my sales right there, you know. And you think that's so obvious, but maybe you want to share that a little bit, because I'm sure most of the people on this call, they have that spouse objection.
What do you say to them? Okay. So I'll go ahead and cover that. Thanks, Israel. I appreciate that. So, yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate. So depending on what you're selling, you heard Sam reference a one-legger. Some decisions require two people. If you're making a big purchase, if you're buying a house in real estate, you need two people. Sometimes auto financing needs two people, husband and wife or partners. And HVAC, you know, it's not a cheap thing. Home improvement could be thousands and tens of thousands of dollars. Generally, they call it a two-legger, which means it needs both spouses, if there are two spouses. And so if his particular thing doesn't, but a lot of people think it does, what he's selling. So first, you have to identify that. If it's not something that requires both spouses, then it's an easy way to overcome the objection. And he was just stuck on that. And because the service that he was doing required no money down, and it wasn't going to be done for a week later, my simple response was, well, that's great. We want to make sure both of you are on the same track. Are you going to be seeing them in the next week? They said, well, yeah, they better come home tonight from work. So we got the comedy going, we got the humor going. So we were having fun. It's okay, perfect. We're not going to change anything today. The job's not going to be done for a week. All we have to do today is do the work order. So you'll have a chance to show them the work order tonight. And for any reason at all, my personal phone number is going to be on there. All you got to do, if they have any questions and they don't want to save $40 a month, or whatever the number is, just give me a call. And not only will I tear up the order, but I'll bring a straitjacket over and help you put it on them. So, you know, just again, to keep the humor going, because you don't want to save $50 a month. Why not? You know, it's $600 a year. So then they started laughing. And once you have the laughing going on, it's an easy sale at that point. But we just created humor in the logic and say, okay, if you don't call me, they're going to come here a week from now, do the installation, and you're good to go. So identify what the real parameters are. In a lot of times when you're in the moment, you don't know those. So again, know the objections before they're going to come up and have some possible solutions. And if you don't know what those answers are, get into your social media groups, ask the question, because a lot of them, you get so many answers from so many professional people in different social media groups that you'll get great answers on how to overcome particular objections. And also your coworkers, your boss, whoever the company training that they have. Does that resonate with everybody? Okay, we got time for one. Latara's got her hand up. Go ahead.
Okay, I know you're kind of. I think you're probably trying to cut it off at the top of the hour.
No. I'm at your service.
Okay, thank you. So when you were talking about that, I just thought of another objection, which is, well, I'm not really sure I want to pull the trigger on it right now. I'm about to go on this trip. Maybe we can talk when I get back, or the Christmas is right around the corner. I'll talk to you in the new year.
Okay, this is a really important objection, so I'm glad you brought it up. Because a lot of us this time of the year will accept those objections as a reason not to move forward. Because it's in our mind that it's going to distract us as well. So we accept that as a legitimate objection. And it may be legitimate or it may not be, but it shouldn't slow you down. It shouldn't prevent you from moving forward with overcoming the objection. So knowing that this time of the year, you can actually bring that up again in the front end of in the questionnaires, the qualifying questions. So maybe some of your qualifying questions are, say, what particular product are you talking about, Latara?
Like starting on a website, or starting on
Okay.
social
No,
media or something.
that's good. So some of your qualifying questions could be, okay, so you're building a website. Now, do you already have your domain? Have you bought your domain? Okay, great. Do you have your merchant account set up already? Or is that something that, we're going to do together? Okay, great. Now, this is obviously each of these cost money. Do you have that budgeted already going into the holiday season? Do you have that budgeted to prepare for that? So if you ask, don't be afraid to ask these questions. These are business questions. These are legit. Any solopreneur knows that they've got to budget finances to start their business. So for you not to ask those questions would be a disservice to them. So you need to ask that. Okay, what do you have budgeted? Are you planning on doing any advertising on social media? Do you have that budgeted out? So these are some of the qualifying questions that you can ask on the front end as you're developing up your presentation. Does that make sense? So that way, going into it. And you can also ask them, say, do you have any other expenditures that potentially may come up that will prevent you from moving forward? Don't be afraid to ask that either. That way you hear about the trip, they're going on a trip. That way you hear about the holidays. You get another great question for you. When would you like to launch your platform? When would you like to launch your business? What's your goal target? Is it January? Is it March? Is it June? No, I want to do it as soon as possible. Okay, great, because that's what you want to hear. When you get them to commit, because here's what you say. They say, well, I want to get it set up for March. Say, perfect. Then we could probably have this conversation January 1st, make it through the holidays. How does that sound to you? Or ask them that. Did you want to start now going into the holidays, or did you want to start January 1st? Because it's going to take some resources to put this thing together. When are you going to feel most comfortable doing that? That could be one of your qualifying questions. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah. So you're actually agreeing with them then. You're not trying to get them to do something sooner.
That depends on the answers to the questions.
Okay.
Yeah, that it's not so much agreeing, it's understanding. I'm understanding their situation and I want to get it before they even bring it up.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Anybody else have a question? Anybody that's listening only? Anybody have a objection that's holding you back, that's preventing you? I see something in the chat here. Any last ones? Okay, let me just share one thing with you then.
Your prices are too expensive.
That's a good question.
Why are you $3,000 more than ABC?
So I'm going to answer that in a second, but I want to lead up to it. You want to qualify the information before you get that question. So in the beginning of your presentation, one of your qualifying questions could be, have you looked at other companies already? Have you been shopping for a different unit? What are you selling?
HVAC, furnace, air
Oh,
conditioning.
okay, cool. Have you talked to anybody? What led you to our company? Have you talked to anybody that has used our product before? So you can ask qualifying questions leading up to that to find a little bit more about where their thinking is and why they called you in the first place. When you have that information that you've got, now you can talk about the product. Say, were you looking for specific features with a dehumidifier, with a humidifier, without? Do you want specific? I don't know much about HVAC. How big is your home? So when the price comes up, you have the information you've already delivered to reflect on. Say, well, the price I gave you includes all of this. And then Sam, if you have a chance to listen to what Sam had said, he addressed the price issue in his presentation. You got that, right?
Yeah, I listen to Sam a lot.
Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah. For me, I would ask more qualifying questions on the front end. Preparing for that.
Gotcha.
And then always have a downsell. If they don't want that size of a unit, say, well, we could give you the $33,000 less if you got a lesser unit. So you get what you pay for.
So my company is usually the more expensive company in my city. So do you suggest like the M&M clothes, like just go in and say, hey, we typically are the more expensive company, and this is why, or how do I handle that? Do you suggest I just put it out there like, boom, we are
I
more
would.
expensive?
I would. But I would also ask them, say, you called us for a reason. What was your reason for calling us? Find out if they heard about you guys. Well, I heard you guys do great work. Say, we do. We're the highest value companies in the area, in the entire city. We deliver high value, and that's why we get such a high customer satisfaction rate. We're not the cheapest. There are more expensive. We've got the highest quality and the highest customer service available. So I would bring it up on the front end.
Yeah.
I would test it also, test different versions of that until you find one that flows really comfortable with your personality.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing lately.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Any last questions? I'm going to show one thing if no other questions. Just want to show my my information here. I want you guys to have this if you didn't get it earlier. It's in the chat. But feel free to reach out to me. Love to communicate with you, talk to you, find out a little bit more about you, your business, and how I can add value to it. Real simple way. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you. God bless. Look forward to talking to each and every one of you. Have a great day. You're welcome.